Welcome to Community Chats, bringing you stories and insights from the heart of Community Living Toronto, a non-profit organization that proudly supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families. We will focus on stories of belonging and inclusion and topics of interest from communities across Ontario and the world. From uplifting moments to breaking barriers, from innovative policies to ideas from leading thinkers, we continue to advocate for inclusive communities and support the rights and choices of people with an intellectual disability.
Hello, everyone. This is Brad Saunders, CEO at Community Living Toronto, and welcome to our Community Chats podcasts. These are an opportunity for us to share and learn and understand each other better. These podcasts are one of the ways we like to stay connected with our community, and we really do value your feedback, so be sure to let us know what you think. Today's conversation is one I know will have an impact on you. My guest this morning is Mary, and she shares her incredible story around what can only best be described as a very challenging decade. Mary is involved with Community Living Toronto in a number of ways and has several roles, including that of a CLTO influencer, a teacher at Community Junction, and for me at least, she serves as an inspiration. I am sure you will enjoy our conversation.
I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. Me too. You are featured in our annual report. Your story's in there. And we've met a couple times, but I didn't know a lot about your background and history and your story until reading that. We've had a chance to talk since then. You've got quite the journey that you're going to share with us over the next 20 minutes or so.
Absolutely.
Great. Maybe we can start. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Mary?
Mary, I was married and I have two sons. My oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD, and my youngest son was diagnosed with PDD, pervasive developmental disorder, and OS.
Mm-hmm. So PDD is often sometimes referred to as autism or sort of on the autism spectrum. Is that fair?
Yes. He's on the autism spectrum, but he's very high functioning.
Great.
And he also has artistic features.
Great. So now you've got a ton of hobbies that you're involved with, and family's quite important to you. So maybe tell how does that fit into your life? What are your hobbies?
Oh, my hobbies are I play the accordion. I've played it with
Now, for not everybody that knows, what is an accordion? Describe so we're all thinking about the same thing.
It's like a piano,
yeah.
But you have your left hand and you have the keyboard, and you have to go back and forth like that, and you have to do two hands at the same time.
So there was a bunch of buttons at one end and a keyboard at the other.
Yes.
So I'm of an age.
It's the bass on the left side and the keyboard on the right.
Oh, see, I didn't know that was the distinction with the accordion. I'm of an age that I grew up watching SCTV, and they had the polka guy, and John Candy used to play an accordion. So that's you've been playing that for a while?
Since I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow. You'll have to you didn't bring it with you, did you?
No.
Well, you'll have to entertain us at some point.
Absolutely.
At some point with that. That's very cool. And you what other hobbies do you have?
I love knitting and crocheting. I'm actually involved in the foster clubhouse.
Okay.
And in the influencer, and I also run a knitting class at the Community Junction once a week.
Great. Excellent. So maybe just to dive in a little bit to your story, and we'll just your story is, again, like I said, quite the journey. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, you had a pretty significant accident. People can't see this because you're on camera, but you're in a wheelchair.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Can you talk about your accident and what happened there?
Okay. I'm going to go back a little bit before the
yeah, please.
Okay, my husband was diagnosed with limbic encephalitis. And what that is that he had multiple seizures that go unnoticed. And they felt that he had cancer in the antibodies, but they couldn't detect it.
Right.
It never surfaced. But the more seizure he had, the more damage it done to the brain. So eventually I ended up having to put him in an adult day program
Mm-hmm.
because I just couldn't leave him alone at home. So this on November the 6th, 2013, I had put him in the day program. And we were living in a 2-bedroom house at the time. And I asked my youngest son to take the recycling bins out, but he didn't want to. So when I picked up my husband from the day program, we came home and I asked him, I said, can you bring the bins out? So we had a back porch. And he brought the bin to the back porch, and I would empty the recycling bins inside the house.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'm going to go outside and help him. So I went out the back porch. I went down 2 steps. The third step, my right foot got caught underneath the step.
Oh.
When I fell, I landed on my right leg, but I hit the left arm. So I fractured my right knee and fractured my left wrist.
Oh wow. You've told that to me a few times now, and every time you describe that accident, it makes me cringe. So I can only imagine what it was like. So that was a pretty traumatic accident
Yeah, that,
for you.
that
And yeah, please go ahead.
and I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. You didn't think anything of it.
No, because my husband tried to pick me up.
Oh wow.
I
So what
thought I was fine. I thought, I didn't do anything.
right. So when did you find out that it was more serious than that?
When I couldn't get up and they called 911 and they had to split my right leg and split my left arm and sent me to the hospital. They put a cast on my left arm and they put a splint on my right leg. And then they said that I'm going to be in the hospital for 2 weeks and then I would have to go into a convalescent home for 3 months.
Wow. So that's you're maintaining a household, you've got 2 kids, you've got a husband, you've got a lot going on. There's a lot of change going on. So how did that news hit you?
It was really was hard because I had to put my youngest son in a respite home,
Right.
which he went to Harold Lawson. I had to put my husband into a respite home. And the problem was these places kept telling me that they couldn't stay very long,
Right.
that they had to go back home. So after a month when I was at the convalescent home, where my husband was, they told me he can't stay here anymore. He has to go home. I said, well, nobody's there who's going to look after him. Well, he can't stay here.
Wow.
So I went into a panic mode because I'm in a convalescent home. I can't do anything. And I just flipped out. I couldn't handle it.
Oh no.
I couldn't absorb it. It was just too much because I didn't expect something like that to happen.
Yeah, no, that's everything changed so quickly. That was a lot to deal with. Plus you're dealing with your own health
Yeah.
issues, being unable to move as well as you used to. And so you and they talked about you going to a convalescent home or a place to recover for a few months, but it actually turned out to be a lot longer journey than that. What happened next?
Okay, well, they told me that eventually I would be walking out of there. That's what the goal was. I was going to walk out of there with a cane.
Right.
But when the bone specialist looked at my leg, they said that the lower part of my leg went out like that.
Oh,
So, which means I couldn't walk.
right.
So they told me I had to wear this special splint for 2 years, and what would
Two
happen
years.
is
Wow.
the knee would go out and the bottom of my leg would come in to
Okay.
line up again.
Okay.
But the problem was, where was I going to go? I
Right.
couldn't stay in the. So the idea was a long-term care home,
Right.
or I spend thousands and thousands of dollars turning my house into a handicap, like widening the walls and putting a ramp outside and lowering stuff, and I
Yeah,
didn't
not
want to
really
spend the
practical
money
or affordable. Yeah.
because I didn't think there was funding out there, and so I didn't want to spend the money. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I
So
ended up
yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Where did you end up moving to?
into a long-term care home.
And that was you were hoping or maybe expecting that that would be a short-term kind of stay.
No, I wasn't expecting to go
Okay.
into a long-term care home.
No, but when you did go in, were you expecting it to be for a long time or for a short time, or did you have that? What was in your mind there?
I was expecting it to be a couple of months, and
A
I'm
couple of months.
gonna get out of there, but
And a couple of months turned into how long?
8 years.
So you went from falling down your back steps to going into the hospital for a bit of time to recover to spending 8 years in a long-term care home.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And during this time, you've got your husband and your kids, and they're obviously not with you, and they were living elsewhere, and you were unable to support them in the same way.
Yeah, yeah, because my youngest son was here in Scarborough,
Right.
and I'm in Etobicoke, and my husband's in Etobicoke, so we were all scattered
All over
all.
the place. That's a lot, Mary. That's a lot to have gone through. I can't imagine what it was like in sort of 2013, 2014, having such a shift from being all together as a family to suddenly having things thrown into chaos.
Yeah, and the worst part was nobody was supporting me.
Right.
I was totally on my own dealing with it.
Right. Wow. So you're in a long-term care home from 2013. And then you would have been in a long-term care home when COVID came.
Yes.
And which long-term care homes, I know people remember, but were some of the most impacted places in the province around COVID and outbreaks, and there were a lot of deaths, a lot of illness. What was that like living in a long-term care home when that was going on?
Oh my God, it was devastating um because when it first came out, um it was a Saturday, I think just after Ford government announced that everything was shutting down,
Right,
and visitors came to the home on that Saturday. And the administrator turned around and said that they all had to leave. They couldn't be, that we were under a lockdown. And
right.
my youngest son had come to visit me, and they sent him home. They
Oh,
told
wow.
me it was not, and he didn't understand what was going on.
No, no.
How do you
But
explain to a child that has autism that we're all in isolation?
yeah, yeah. And so you spent that would have been in, I guess, 2020. And you talked about, how devastating it was in that long-term care home. What happened?
Okay, well, after that, they they didn't separate us right away until people started to get COVID.
Right,
When the residents started getting COVID, then they said, okay, every floor has to stay on their floor. They can't be together anymore. And then by the end of April, there was like 20 people that had COVID. So then they isolated us in our room and told us we weren't allowed to leave our room.
right,
And then they started testing everybody
right.
to see how COVID. And the first 2 weeks of May, I ended up having
Oh,
COVID.
well.
And there was 23 residents on the first floor. And by By the middle of May, there were 6 of us left on that floor. Everybody else had COVID or passed away.
Wow. Wow. What an ordeal. My goodness. And again, still isolated, not seeing family as often or at all, I guess, in long-term care. We all lived through it. Those were difficult times.
Well, thank goodness for the computers and
Yeah.
goodness for FaceTime and all that.
Yeah.
And uh, my family would come, but it had to be a window visit.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So that was a lot to deal with, but then during that time or earlier than that, you had met Laura Lee, who works with Community Living Toronto, and she started understanding your story and working with you. Can you talk about that?
Okay, well, I started seeing her, I think, September of 2014, because when I went in the long-term care home, I went in there with no money, with
Right.
no income, and they were charging me $1,600 a month rent
Wow.
with no income. So I think there was another agency that had come to visit and said that we are going to make sure you have income coming in, and we're going to get services for you. And I think at that time I did apply at Community Living. Laura Lee came out in September. We started filling in CPP disability because I couldn't get ODSP. I couldn't get anything else.
Right.
And when we did the CPP disability. And then in January 2015, she asked me if I wanted to apply for SS independent living.
Right.
And we started the application of that.
Right. And Laura Lee's an adult protective service worker with Community Living Toronto. And she got involved with you. I guess the long-term care home and the other agency had put you on a list to see people in our APS supports, and we don't have a long wait list there, right? People are dealt with, engaged fairly quickly. So you got to see Laura Lee pretty quickly, and she was able to engage you there. Got on the wait list for supported independent living, which would allow you to leave the long-term care home. And that was I think you said 2014 is when you first went on that list.
2015.
2015. Okay. So what happened after you got on the wait list?
Well, I assumed that it was going to be within a couple of months. I didn't think it was going to be like 8 years waiting.
So it's correctly named a wait list, right?
Yeah.
So you waited 8 years from 2014 until 2022?
21.
21. And then what happened?
And then I assumed that because of COVID, that they weren't going to be accepting people into independent living. I just assumed that. And then April.
Well, plus you'd been waiting a long time already, right?
And plus I turned 60 and I was like, okay, well, this is never going to happen. Then in April, I get a phone call saying, are you still interested? And I'm like, well, yes. Yes, I'm still interested. But I figured, okay, well, they call it to see if I'm still interested. They'll put me in the bottom of the list, give it to somebody that needs it more. And then in May, I get a phone call saying, would you like to come and see the apartment?
Right.
What? Okay, so I had to ask the administrator if I could leave the long-term care home to go.
Oh, of course, because you were still in lockdown, right?
Yes, yes, because of COVID. So they said, yes, not a problem. So my oldest son and I, we went and looked at the one-bedroom apartment. It was a brand new building. So I was the first tenant. And I'm like, wow, I love this place. This is fantastic. So they said, okay, but we're still interviewing a bunch of other people.
Right.
So they had 100 people and it went down to 50.
Okay. And you're still in the group of 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made the cut.
They said that we will the next time will be a video call. And I'm like, okay, well, we looked at it. I'm not going to hear from them again. The end
Right.
of May, they called me and said, we want to set up an interview. And I'm like, wow, what's going on here? Okay. So we did the interview. Then in June, um, they called me and said, now we have to start filling in the paperwork
Right.
and doing the subsidized. And I said, well, I'm not going to get subsidized because I'm getting my husband's pension. They
Right.
said, well, we're still going to do it.
Right.
Then July, the subsidized approved me, but I still haven't heard whether I was going to get the apartment.
Okay.
The end of July 25th, I heard they said, yes, they approved you. They've accepted you. You're moving in.
What was that like?
July 25th, I think it was, or July 24th, they told me you've been accepted.
Yep.
And
So how did you feel when you heard that news?
I was going, yes. And so I'm going around, yeah. And of course, the staff at the laundry room home were sad to see me leaving. And
Yeah.
so then we had to set a date of when I was going to leave.
Yeah.
So the long-term care home, the staff, they knew I was leaving, so they were already prepared for it. So August 14th, I moved into my one-bedroom apartment.
Oh, that's good. So you got approved at the end of July, and then you were able to move in very quickly, or a few weeks after that.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. So you've been living there since August of 2021.
Yes.
And how's life changed?
Well, at first, when I moved in there, the quietness, privacy, no PSWs coming in every time. But it was learning to adapt.
Right.
It was learning because last time I was in my own place was in 2013 and
Right.
we were a family. So cooking, I was cooking for 4 people, now cooking for 1. So learning how to do things on my own was the hardest part.
Because you were, excuse me, when you were living in your home, you were independent, you were, taking care of a family, and you were doing all things, you were self-sufficient.
Yeah.
After 8 long years in a long-term care facility, those skills, you'd forgotten them. You hadn't used them as much. You probably remembered them, but hadn't done them in a while. So that was a bit of an adjustment getting back in.
Yes. And then I have PSW on call 24 hours a day.
Great.
They come and help me with whatever I need.
Like in the building, or are they out? Okay,
yeah.
Great.
No, inside the building, because it's through access.
Okay. So it's a much more based on what you need, not just on living in an institution that has those things, sort of like you said, people interrupting you when you don't need to be, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. So that's quite the journey. Like you've been through quite an ordeal.
Yes.
What else? Now you've picked up, you're an accordion player, but you're also a knitter. And I gather you talked about the knitting coming a bit later, and you've really sort of developed that hobby has turned into some work for you.
Yes. Well, back in 2016, I went to Creative Village and I started the painting, and then I went to the knitting, and then I went to volunteering.
Right.
And the knitting. And when Kathy had retired, Harold had asked me if I wanted to work there, and I'm like, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not?
So you now work, it was at Creative Village, but Creative Village is closed, and it's you mentioned it's at the Junction?
At Community Junction, yes.
Okay. And you're doing a knitting class there. How often are you running them?
Once a week.
Great. So you're teaching people, passing on the passion for knitting to others.
Yes,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
Fantastic. That's good. And you're seeing your kids and stuff now?
My youngest son, I see him almost every weekend,
Great, great.
and my oldest son, maybe whenever he's available.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So that's quite an impactful story, Mary, and I'm really glad that that has worked out for you. At the same time, I'm sorry that it took so long for things to come together, because that is a tremendously long amount of time to wait. And those intervening 8 years where you were in a long-term care home, not appropriately, right? You were there because there was nothing else. And now you're much in a much better place, living a much more fulfilling life. You seem like a positive, optimistic person, so I'm sure you made the best of that time. And you did mention when we were chatting earlier that what you do miss about the long-term care home is that the staff, that the people that were involved with you on a regular basis were people that you got to know and become friends with, and miss the connection.
Yes, yes. I mean, the staff was fantastic. A lot of the PSWs and the nurses, they were fantastic.
Great.
And yeah, I miss them.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yes, because a lot of the residents that I knew had passed away
Right,
through COVID. So
right, right. So now you're also doing something else with Community Living Toronto. You've become involved with our influencers, right? And our influencers is a group of people that are interested in advocating or are passionate about certain things, and disability supports being one, but also just other passions that they've got in their life. How did you hear about the influencers, and how did you get involved?
okay, well, actually, it was Laura Lee that sent an email saying that would you be interested in being a CLTO influencer? And at first, I looked at it and I'm like, this is nothing. But then I looked at it again
Right.
and I listened to the video. And I said to Laura Lee, you know what? This might be something I'm interested, because I have to advocate for my youngest son all the time. So I said, this is just perfect for me. So we started doing the interview and just went right from there. And here I am.
Here you are. Great. Now, with I heard you present at a conference in the fall, so you've started to present and talk more. What else have you been doing with the influencers?
Well, we do the live stream once a month.
Yeah,
And we also do our meeting once a month.
yeah,
And we've been doing a lot of videos,
good.
personal videos. They just did November the 8th, they did a music video.
Yeah.
Uh,
Were you involved with the Candy Crush candy salad thing?
yes, yes, yes.
So I don't know this meme. I'm not up on all the stuff, but it's a TikTok meme where people make a salad, but not with any kind of fruit or vegetable, but with a bunch of different type of candies. So
Yes.
can you describe that video?
Well, we all got a bag of fishies or swarmies or something like that. And each of us would have the bag open and we would say our name and we would take the bag and dump it into the bowl.
Right.
So this whole bowl was full with different candies.
Did you actually eat it at the end of that? That's not on the video, but did you eat it, or was it
Well, yeah, we they asked if we wanted some of it, and
okay?
that kind of stuff doesn't appeal to me.
That's, I know it sounds a little sweet,
It's sour.
yeah, yeah, sweet and sour, true. Now that video, last I heard, which was a while ago, it's been seen 3.4 million times on
Yeah.
TikTok and shared tens of thousands of times. And a lot of comments came in that were quite complimentary of the work of you as influencers doing that work. And it was really quite uplifting. Oh, there we go. From Anne Marie said it's 4.4 million people have seen it
Wow.
now. So really cool. Talk about influencing in a positive way. Very cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
that's good. I got a couple more questions. And again, with everything you've been through throughout your life, but especially in the last, since your fall and and before that. Is there sort of a lasting impact or memorable moment that you can take from the last 10 or 15 years of your life that you'd like to that stands out for you?
The last 10 or 15
Or
years.
it doesn't even have to be that. It's up to you. What's a memorable moment that you cherish when you think of something that's because I'm sure you're an optimistic person, but are there times when you just think of something that makes you smile or that you remember fondly?
When the long-term care home celebrated my husband and I's 25th wedding
Oh,
anniversary.
excellent.
They went out of the way to make it memento.
Great.
Very lovely.
Excellent. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Final question that we ask everybody. What does belonging mean to you, Mary?
Belonging means that, you know, when I come to community living, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like that this is a special place and nobody is centered out. Everybody is treated as one. Other organizations that I've been into, you're isolated. You're not part of their group. You're not part of their organization. You're by yourself. So I always had a connection with community living.
Great. Great. Nice way to end this discussion. I know it's sometimes hard to tell your story and be very open but people get a lot from that, from learning what others have gone through. So I'm really glad that you've been so open around sharing your story with us in this conversation, but also sharing your story in our annual report. And I know you've talked about it quite openly. I believe and have seen that you are an inspiration to many people in our community, and really glad that you've chosen to take a role as an influencer in a sort of formal way. I think you've been influencing people for good for many years, but it's good to see you taking a formal role and advocating and outreaching and sharing your story, because it is inspirational and really, really great to hear.
Absolutely. And I hope I can help more people.
Thank you. Wow, what a story. I am so thankful for Mary's openness and for sharing her story with us. Mary's enthusiasm reverberates throughout our conversation, and her story reminded me of the importance of perseverance and resiliency. And it was a real example that you can keep a positive outlook even in very difficult times. I would also say, if you want to learn how to knit, be sure to sign up for one of Mary's classes at Community Junction. Thanks for joining our Community Chats podcast. New episodes are, as always, released on the 15th and the 30th of each month. So don't forget to subscribe and stay up to date. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.
Don't forget to join us next time as we unpack the power of community through collaborative initiatives and shared experiences. Available on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Audible, and YouTube. Follow us on social media at CLToronto. Let's chat, share, and spread those good vibes together. We hope these discussions will inspire you and give new ideas to add your voice to our mission of making our communities and neighborhoods inclusive and welcoming.